Welcome back to part 2 of the series of Danish pastry dough. Today I have the dough. It's been out for about 15 minutes warming up to room temperature. I'm going to show you how we can shape it, or as they would say it in the baking industry, make up. We're going to make it up. All right, I'm going to start by just taking a portion of this. I'm going to do Danish in 4 styles. I'm going to start with the ones that we cut out to 4-inch squares. I'm going to start by just taking half of the dough. Lightly flour the surface, and remember, not too much. And I want to roll it out to about 1/4 inch thick. I want to try to have it it's about 8 inches now. Remember that I want them to be 4x4 squares. So if I can try to maintain it within the 8 inches, I'll have far less scraps with it. Scraps are great, and you can make things like monkey bread and maybe like apple fritters, that sort of thing. But really, I don't want to have any scraps today. And because I can't reach that far, I'm going to bring it to me on this side. Remember that there's almost 50% butter in this recipe, and so it's very firm when you're rolling it out. You really have to put your back into it a bit. It's a good way for you to get a little extra exercise before you eat all the calories in the Danish. Right, I just have a little bit of a chubby end. I want to take care of that, and then I'm going to be good to go ahead and start cutting. You can see I'm just manipulating the dough to make it easier for me. They say work smarter, not harder. And also, if I can move it around like this on the work surface, I know for sure it's not stuck, which is really important. All right. I'm going to go ahead and start cutting 4x4. So I'm a little bit wide, but that's okay because I'm going to trim it up a little bit. Scrap pieces. And then I want to cut it down the middle. It's 8 inches wide, but I want them to be 4 inches. And I'm going to cut the rest of the way through. And then with each of these, I want to just trim up a little bit so that they're square. Don't take too much off. You can see I've got a little bit of a rounded corner here. Don't be too alarmed with that. I can show you how we can work with that so that no one will really see. So 4. Just a touch. There's a few places I didn't get all the way through. Go back over. All right. Okay, so now with the 4-inch squares, I can make 3 different kinds. Well, I can make more than that, but I'm going to make 3 different kinds. I'm going to make cheese pockets, and I'm going to make pinwheels, and I'm going to make fruit baskets. I want to start by adding a little bit of egg wash, just because I want it to be able to stick together. I made this earlier. It's just a little bit of scrambled egg with a little bit of water in it, and I just want to put enough on the surface of it to really make it so that it's going to be like a glue to help it stick together. I find it easiest to start with the egg wash and then do the remainder of the cutting and shaping, and then egg wash the top as well. This way I'm going to get nice color and it's going to stick together. All right, so I'm going to make pinwheels. To do the pinwheel, I go in each corner. I don't go all the way through. I stop short at about 1 inch from the center. I'm going to do 3 pinwheels. And then all you have to do is come to the center with every other point. This is where the egg wash is really important because it's going to help those points stay together. Okay. Next, I'm going to show you how to fill them. All right, so I've put out a few fillings here. I have canned apple, lemon curd, raspberry jam, a little bit of strawberry filling, and cream cheese. I'm going to start by placing down the pinwheels onto the baking sheet. And it's pretty easy with these. You can just put a topping in the center, and really it can be anything. I'm gonna do 1 cheese. You can see I've put the cheese in a pastry bag. It really works better for the cream cheese to work with it that way. Let's do 1 raspberry. This is where you can get really creative and do any kind of variety that you like. And a little bit of apple for the center of that one. Don't overdo it. You want to have enough of a bite that when you're eating it, you're getting the filling. You don't want to overwhelm it because it's just not going to bake properly. You're going to find that a lot of the fillings are going to ooze out. All right, the next one I want to show you is the cheese pocket. Sometimes referred to as a turnover, but that's more of a European term. Here we think of a turnover as being a triangular shape. So basically for a pocket, you're just going to squeeze on a little bit of cheese. And then all you have to do is bring the points together, just 2 of them, and pinch. Okay. And then lastly, I'm going to show you something they call the fruit basket. The fruit basket is pretty easy. It's one of my favorites to do because it makes like a nice little pocket in the center to put your fillings in. So to do the fruit basket, you're just going to bring all corners to the center. Don't overlap them. They should just meet like a little package. That's where you can see I had that kind of like wonky little corner there. It won't matter because nobody will even see that, okay? And then it's the same for these. You can put any number of fillings in them that you like. You can put a little bit of strawberry, a little bit of lemon. Let's do a cheese and raspberry. I can get it off. And how about a little bit of apple? And that's how they get their name as fruit baskets, because they're filled with fruit. Typically, you could also use other fillings too, but in most cases it's going to be some type of fruit filling. All right. I'm going to set these aside to proof. They need to proof for anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes before they go in the oven. And I'm going to show you the next style that I'm going to make, which is snails. All right, so I've taken the second half piece of dough and I've rolled it out 10 inches wide. It doesn't matter so much how long you make it, just so long as it's about 10 inches wide. because we're gonna cut it in this direction. This way all of the Danish will be consistently the same size. And they're gonna be more of like a smaller version. I don't wanna call them mini Danish, but they're gonna be a few less bites than the larger ones I did earlier. So it is rolled out. It is 10 inches across, and I wanna butter it because I want to cinnamon and sugar it, and I want the cinnamon sugar to stick pretty well. So pretty liberally. I think I melted about 2 tablespoons of butter, and I may or may not use all of it. Probably not. I mean, you don't want to have so much on that it's dripping, because that's just going to go against you when you're trying to shape up the snails. Yeah, I probably used only about a tablespoon there of the butter. And I went all the way to the edges. All right, and then I want to be pretty liberal about putting cinnamon sugar on it, but again, not so much that it's going to make a big mess as I'm working. The butter will absorb some of it, and you'll definitely see that. And it's really important that you do these steps before you go and cut your strips out, because it's just going to make it so challenging for you to try to do it after. Cinnamon sugar is usually a 3-to-1 ratio. 3 parts sugar, 1 part cinnamon. I think that's going to be pretty good. And I'm just going to go ahead and start cutting them into 1-inch lengths. I have my trusty ruler here. You can kind of just, as you're going, just sort of eyeball it. And try to make them as consistent as you can. Remember to look where you're going, not where you've been. Think of it as just like driving a car. I'm not watching here when I'm pushing there. I'm watching the wheel the way that it goes down across the pastry, and I find that you get more straighter edges and more precise strips that way, instead of looking where you've been. Looks like it's a little sticky, so I'm just gonna hold it at one end. Alrighty, so I've gotten them all cut. Now I want to begin to shape them. So basically just starting to twisting and holding one end, and then pushing it along on the work surface with the other end so that you're kind of twirling it, going in opposite directions at this point. It's going to resist this process, and it can be frustrating. All right, and once you get it that way, you can see it's twisted. You simply make this snail by starting with the end and going all the way around, and then tucking the tail under as you put it on the tray. Okay, and you're going to do this for each of these. Show you another. Begin to twirl it, and then pushing it on the work surface to continue to make that spiral twirl for your snail. Try to keep them tight so that they'll be nice and tight once they proof and bake. All right, I'm going to do the rest of them. So I finished rolling all of the snails, and I'm going to go ahead and fill them. I let them sit for about 15 minutes to rise a little bit. You just want to make a little finger hole in the center of each. This is going to help you to have a little bit of a deeper cavity to put more filling in, and to try to kind of hold it there so it's not going to run out everywhere. Oops. All right. I do some cheese. Pastry bags really are the easiest with this. If you have the ability to do that, you can also just use a Ziploc baggie that's disposable as well. I have a lemon. And this is a lemon curd, but you can use lemon pie filling as well. A little bit of apple. skimpy. And then finally, I'm going to do a little bit of raspberry. Apricot jam is also a good one to do. Any type of preserves work well, and even prune filling, the Lekvar, a lot of people find that to be delicious in the morning as well. I have a little bit of coconut here. I'm going to put a little bit of coconut on each of the lemon ones, just to really give it another dimension, and a little bit of sliced almond on top of the raspberry, just to make them a little fancier. So along with the other proofed Danishes that I made earlier, they're going to go in and bake off at 350 degrees, and they're going to take, smaller ones like this may take maybe 7 or 8 minutes. The larger ones maybe up to 12 or 15 minutes. Use your judgment. Remember that there's a lot of butter. This is a very enriched dough, that it is going to tend to get a little bit darker as it bakes, so don't be alarmed by that. So it's been about 15 minutes and all the Danishes are done. I let them cool a little bit, and then I iced them with a little bit of water icing, which basically is just powdered sugar, confectionery sugar, with either enough water, dairy, or citrus to thin out the sugar to be able to drizzle it across. I just wanted to refresh your memory of the styles that we made. We made the cheese pockets. We made pinwheels with different varieties. These were called the fruit basket, which is the one where we pushed the corners in, right? And then finally the little snails. I highly recommend the snails for like a large party. If you want to put a platter of Danishes out and you know that people will want to sample different varieties, you could do the snails. You can do them. You can see are much smaller, so that it's just a couple bites, so that people can kind of mix and match and get a different variety and get a feel for it. One of the things I most like about Danish dough is the huge variety of pastries that you can make with it. And I didn't even begin to demonstrate the different types of coffee rings and Danish rings and loaves that you can make out of the Danish dough as well. All right, I'm going to set a few out on a platter for you. Just to make it look really pretty. It's nice to have the different varieties because you see such a different amount of color. Now, any of the Danish pastries that are just fruit centers can sit out until you're finished using them at room temperature. Remember that as soon as they're done baking, they'll begin to stale. One thing that you can do to try to help prevent the staling process is to, when they're still hot, brush them with a little bit of thinned out apricot jam. It gives them a nice barrier for staling. It also adds some sweetness and some shine to it. Now those that have the cheese in it, remember that they're only going to be able to be out at room temperature because of foodborne illness, a maximum of 4 hours, and after the 4 hours they should have, if they haven't been eaten, they should be discarded. So likely what we'll do if we don't finish up the cheese Danish right off is that I'll refrigerate those, and then the rest of the pastries can stay out covered at room temperature until we finish eating them. I'll just leave the mini Danish as is. There you have it. Danish pastries.